Hello, everybody. It's Thursday, and it's time for Truckers Delight. It's time for the Truckers Delight Live Show. I'm your host, Keith F. Sheldon. Joining me this week is William Walford and Jason McCammon as we're breaking down the Star Trek Prodigy Season 2 episodes, The Fast and the Curious, and Is There in Beauty No Truth? William, roll that beautiful bean footage.
3, 2, 1, and boom.
Every other vote.
And you gotta admit, the dude that was coming down the aisle, he was kind of cute. I'd have carried him on my shoulder.
Here we are. Welcome once again to Truckers Delight.
Like, literally, my mic falls down just as we go live. Hi, everybody.
Who you gonna be?
The captain of the Enterprise Z.
Love that baseball and the teacup, like clearly TNG DS9 fans.
Demand that we see power rates at some point in this season.
What is going on?
Power had shit to do with the power race.
No, everybody, this is actually one of the main screenwriters for Prodigy, so we are super excited to hear from you. And
No one
also,
listen.
I'm a little embarrassed for being as critical.
Man, I really love that intro.
This was a nice touch.
It was, Keith. Thanks for saying that. And if anybody hasn't guessed when they watched it from the start, we bring this to you live with no editing.
Yeah, it's true.
No redos on the intros.
Yep.
Hi.
Yeah, so fine, do it live then. All right. So we're gonna start with The Fast and the Curious, episode 7 of season 2 of Prodigy. Would either of you like to take the honors, or is it on me to fall on the sword?
I'll do a quick one.
All right, go for it, Jason.
All right. The whole team, except for Majel, they try to keep her as a team. They're trying to find the quickest way to, what's the name of it?
The spiral nebula.
You're right. So they can cure Gwen. And the computer gives them like a route that's going to take like 61 days. But then they see another route because they don't want it to take 61 days. They see another route. There's an old abandoned transwarp
Yeah.
Borg conduit. So they take that, and then the reason why it's abandoned, they find out that it takes them through this region of space where these aliens, I don't know what they are. They look almost like Kazons, but they're not.
No, it is Kazons.
It is Kazons? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because maybe the dude had the thing on his face. Anyway, and they force them to give them money for passage, but they have no money. So instead of that, they say, hey, I got another idea. I'll race you for it. So basically, they want them, if they could beat their people in the race, then they get safe passage, right? It's almost seems like a Tom Paris episode or something. So it starts out really simple, like, okay, they're going to race these guys and probably win, and then they'll get away. But the one guy starts, so the leader is obviously cheating and setting traps and all this other stuff. He's also talking to himself about it, like, drop that boulder on him. No, we can't do that, but we can't let them win. Basically, like this duality talking back and forth. And Zero notices that. He says, this guy's crazy and he's cheating, and let's go get him. So they go get him, and they take off like almost like a Borg prosthetic off of him, and he wakes up, right? Mm-hmm. And they realize he's not really this evil dude, that he was just some guy, and he doesn't know like what's been going on and what happened or whatever. Meanwhile, during the race, things go bad. There's two to a ship. There is Rock and
Big win.
right, Rock and Gwen, which leaves
Dow and Jacob in the other.
Dow and Jacob. And Jacob's not having a good time at all at this speed thing, and Dow's having a great time because this is really, he really wanted this this whole race because speed is his thing. So he figured he had this in the bag. But actually, they go to stop for another ship that got downed. It was actually an enemy ship. And then Gwen and them go back for them, and then they figure out that wow, what happens after that? Man, I'm screwing this whole thing up.
You want me to take it over?
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, Dow and the awesome pilot they're supposed to be up against crash into each other, and Gwen comes back to get them. They go try to save the pilot and find out that he's actually an android,
Right.
and that his faceplate has come off, so he's now deactivated. So then they realize, as they find out at the same time, Zero and Murph confront the guards that are guarding Eftati, the leader of the First Maj, and find out they're androids too. And so it's just him, and he attacks them. They push him back, and the ornate thing that he had around his face falls off, and they see that what's obviously the control device that he's using to control the androids is there. And they go to rip it off, and it turns out it was actually controlling him. And pay no attention to the man behind the glass wall, but it's actually a nice wall. They break it down, and they find that it's actually an AI supercomputer shaped like a throne. So it gives a whole new meaning to power behind the throne. That has actually been running this planet and running this exercise and everything to try to make their pilots better. And originally it was a Kazon outpost to train pilots, but the computer AI system that they built went haywire and took over and started killing the pilots by making it harder and harder each other. So they have arms that come down and grab all of them. The others show up from the race, and the arms grab them as well. And it looks like they're going to put them all under the same mind control that they had the Kazon leader. But Zero decides to fight back, allows their arms and legs to be pulled off, and charges right at the control and destroys the supercomputer. But in doing so, damages their containment unit, and of course, they don't have the stuff on Infinity to repair it. Now, during the race, Gwen had started to phase out, but thankfully they did have stuff on the Infinity to fix her unit to keep her from phasing out. So they are then going to continue on, of course, now hoping that they can keep Zero safe inside their unit without coming out. Meanwhile, back on the Voyager A, people have started to notice that the hologram versions of them, which they don't know are holograms, are a bit different. And when the senior staff come down to the mess hall and talk to them, they're all speaking differently and acting differently, and that's all pretty strange. And Michelle definitely notices. Follows Gwen back to her quarters, seemingly strange, and then suddenly everything freezes, and some sort of tendrils come through the wall and are about to grab Gwen when suddenly her program shuts down. And that's where we leave the end of The Fast and the Curious.
Because we already knew that the personalities were switched from the episode before, right?
Right.
So is that what happened to her? I didn't realize her program disappeared. At first I thought something took her, or I thought it got to her.
Well, I think it was trying to get to, either it was trying to get to Gwen and didn't know she was a hologram,
right?
Just like everybody else. And then because when it realized it was a hologram, it shut her down rather than,
right.
I haven't watched anything beyond these two episodes. Well, I know you guys have watched the full season, so you probably know more about those tendrils than I do. At least I would hope.
Oh, yeah. Get me
So
started on
no
the
spoilers.
Get me started on the time tendrils. That's a nice power to have.
Okay. So the next episode is There in Beauty, No Truth. So we continue. It's now been a week, and they're continuing to try to head towards Chakotay in the Spiral Nebula, and it's told from Zero's perspective. Their containment unit is failing, but they're doing their best to try to make a go of it. They tried to build arms and legs for them, but not really working out that well with the tools that are available on the Infinity. But then Zero gets a message telepathically from another Medusan that there is a planet. Was it, I believe, Octavia 4? Hold on, let me double check that.
The planet that can help him.
Yeah.
Give him life.
And the Memory Alpha, the Memory Alpha page is blank. So that is no help.
It's Green Folks Planet.
Yes.
Shout out to the 3 people that are watching right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you know the name of the planet, put it in the comments because I'm not finding it on Memory Alpha, but I think it's Octavia 4. So then they're given a choice: continue to try to search for Chakotay or do something to help Zero. And Gwyn successfully persuades Dahl to do the right thing and go to this planet. They land, and they're told that it is a collection of non-corporeal beings, a colony for non-corporeal beings, and it name checks every non-corporeal beings that we've have referenced throughout Star Trek, going back to the beginning. And they get there, and they find these beings that are very much corporeal, and found out that because of the planet, the radiation from the rings and its atmosphere hitting the atmosphere causes everything to regenerate at a much faster speed, and it can turn a non-corporeal being into a corporeal one. So they offer to help save Zero, and they take them and place them in one of their units that will turn them into to give them a body. So the rest of the crew decides, yes, this is what's best for Zero. We care about them. We love them. So we do this. Meanwhile, the leader of the colony is hiding information that may actually be detrimental to the crew, or more specifically to Zero.
To Zero.
Yeah. Meanwhile, back on the Voyager, we have a spirited game of Precy Squares in which it's very noticeable that the Protostar crew is not acting as they expect. And Magell and the Nova Squadron team pointed out at the end of the game, and there's senior staff watching, and they figure out the ruse. The Doctor finding that it was his own brilliant storyline used against him with the holographic duplicates. They deactivate the holograms, and then, well, Gwyn wasn't still here, so we need to track down Gwyn to get the real story of what's going on. And they already realized that they stole the Infinity because there was no other way they could have left the ship. And then they find that on this Voyager, there actually are cameras in different places. Which is, wow, crazy. Imagine if they had that level of security like we have, everywhere in our culture.
Invasion of privacy.
Yeah. Well, the fact that there's a camera in Gwyn's quarters.
Well, maybe you have to have top secret clearance to access them. They're not just
Yeah. Well, just knowing how many episodes of Deep Space Nine would have been different if they had cameras in the corridors, not even in the quarters, just in the hallways.
It would have helped a lot of confusion.
So they find that not only has Gwyn disappeared, but also there was an 8-minute gap in the computer records, which shouldn't be possible.
Not for throughout the ship.
Back to Octavia 4. Zero has emerged from their thing, and they are now a majestic green being that stands 8 feet tall and can feel everything. So they go to the feast of the senses, where everything tastes good, everything feels good. They're playing music, they're dancing, they're having fun. But next comes the trial of the forbidden sense, with that sense being fear. So they are told they have to run from the Alamoth, but it's the leader lets out the secret to Dahl and Gwen that the regenerative properties of the atmosphere and the soil keeps their bodies alive. If they were to leave, the bodies were to degenerate. Now, that's not exactly clear what they mean by that, because, I mean, our bodies are degenerating all the time.
Well, their body is continually replenished by the energy in the atmosphere. So
yeah, but we don't know if degenerate means they're gonna, they will have a week, Zero will have a week or a month or years.
Oh, they don't say how long.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take out what I do know happens and really ask the question, because I did ask myself this question when I watched the episode. Like, what is the difference between that and aging?
Exactly. That was my thinking as well. And here, let me finish the recap, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that.
They don't have telomeres.
Yeah. So the crew goes after Zero, as Zero runs from the Alamoth, and puts their own lives at risk to try to help their friend. And Zero loves, that they did this, finds out the truth, was upset with the leader. I don't know what the leader's name was, but it was some other, it's not a number, but it was some base thing. Mm-hmm. They find out the truth and decide that their friends are their family and they want to be with them. So Zero will be leaving the planet with the Protostar crew. So then back on Voyager, they have somehow brought Gwen's holomatrix back up, and they unfreeze her, and she is able to answer their questions, and she tells them that we got a signal from Chakotay. They were going after it. And then, but what happened with the 8 minutes, at which point she gets scared, talks of things about to grab her, and basically she is going through reliving the trauma of that last moment that we saw.
And the doctor two-fixes her ass.
Yeah, so they shut her down to say, they shut down the program. So
yeah, they made a program.
I have to say, I'm really surprised that action came from the doctor with no thought whatsoever. He just shut her down after whole episodes he's had against that sort of behavior. So now they know they need to turn around and find the Infinity and track them down, because, as Janeway says, this could end up costing us a lot more than 8 minutes. Yeah. So that's where we're left. We go into a 2-parter next week that hopefully should solve some of this stuff. But we're sticking with tonight's episode. So I will say this, Will, to try to answer your question. So we have our cells replicate, because I said telomeres. This is to try to give me the idea. Our cells replicate continuously our whole lives, right? And the only reason why we age is because let's just put a somewhat of a small significant failure every time that happens. Just say it like that, even though that's not exactly what it is. Perhaps our cells just don't replicate,
Well, yeah, different things shut down as we grow older. I mean, Jason, you and I both have, hair color that has changed.
Oh, yeah, you had to bring that up. I can't. That's why I am now.
Just being honest, man.
I have a gray hair. I have a gray hair.
It's a runaway train, I'm telling you, once it starts going.
Yeah. And that's just the follicles of your hair stop to lose their color. So that it's not that the hair is actually white, it's actually clear. But it looks white when put together like that. But it's just part of your body shutting down over time. And different people have different parts of their body shut down in different ways at different times, and that leads to all manner of diseases and infirmities and issues, and even death in some cases.
Bad knees.
I'm gonna tell you, and this in no way is a spoiler, because as soon as they said rings around the planet, I immediately thought of Insurrection.
Yeah, I definitely got that reference as well.
Yeah.
I also thought of the Deep Space Nine episode where it was the planet that was the prison planet in the Gamma Quadrant.
Right, where they kept dying.
Yeah, everyone keeps dying and coming back to life and fighting against each other.
Oh, that's where the first Kai died. Yeah.
Yes, that's where Kyle Parker died, and Mike from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul was the leader of the group that they ended up working with. But yeah, if you die on the planet, you are brought back to life, but then you can't leave the planet.
That was nanites, though, right?
Right. Yes.
So that was the actual.
I'm gonna pretend that the good doctor went back eventually and used Borg nanoprobes to free them or something. I don't.
But yeah, Insurrection is definitely the clear comparison one on that, because it was the energy from the rings that was keeping them all young and obviously not regenerating and everything, and giving them the ability to learn things like slowing down time.
Don't forget firmer breath.
So I'm glad we're on this episode. Well, I have a question about the Fast and the Curious.
Okay.
So the AI voice, was that Kate Mulgrew?
Let me see.
No.
I do not believe so.
Because for a while,
no, that was Deborah Wilson, well known for being on Mad TV, the original cast of Mad TV. But she's done several roles in Prodigy, going back to early days of season 1.
Okay, because when I heard that line, perhaps the next one will prove worthy, I was like, Janeway, is that you? Like, like maybe it's just the way she articulated her voice, but I was just like, oh my god. But as we were reviewing Prodigy episodes back in early July, I've been really waiting for this one, because this is actually my first favorite one. I have 3 favorite ones. This is my first of one of my favorites, because
which one?
The Fast and the Curious, because this completed why Zero will now be my favorite character.
Zero already was my favorite character, but yeah, definitely adds to it.
Right. It's just like, oh my gosh. Look, go ahead.
He's suicide bound. He's suicide bound.
I mean, it was so cool, and I really thought that they died. I was like, oh my gosh. And didn't. And I thought, oh my gosh, is this explosion going to encompass the crew? No, it was just plasma waves. That's all it was. Just background radiation. It ain't going to do nothing. And I'm going to assume that they redirected the energy upward, and then it just shot out, like, versus like blowing up the entire complex. So like I go back and I watch that scene over and over again, because I thought that was so cool. He said, I may be limited, but you something. And I just cried. I cried. I'm just like, oh my god.
Yeah, it seemed like to me that this was going to be kind of like, I want to say like a throwaway episode with not that much meaning in it. Like I said before, it's like, oh, they're going to do a race, and then they're going to win the race, and then they're going to go. But they end up packing a lot into it, especially the end part, which William likes. And these guys opened up a whole transworld conduit.
Well, we never know if they get back into the transworld conduit. We do know that it's still taking them several days to get to where they're going.
I would assume that they got back to. They had no reason to change direction at this point.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting with the Fast and the Curious was that we actually see a bit more menace from the Kazon.
Yeah, I'm going like, okay, look at y'all.
It's funny that for how badly the Kazon ended up being portrayed in Voyager. I mean, it could be worse. It could be Ferengi in the early seasons of Next Gen, but they were never quite actually menacing. They were just annoying.
Yeah.
But the way these kids feared the Kazon was far worse than the Borg to them, and they were almost assimilated in that Sleeping Borg Live from season 1.
Yeah.
But no, the fear of what the Kazon did to them, taking them to Tars Lamora, that's more fearful to them.
Because that's what they came up with. That's what they saw.
Oh snap! I gotta go.
Oh, good seeing you, Jason.
Early. Maybe I can jump on with the phone in a minute. But
all right, no problem, man.
All right,
No
good
problem.
tap in the moment. You guys will rock it out.
Mm-hmm.
I know. All right, guys. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
So, of course, Fast and the Curious gets its title from a takeoff of the Fast and the Furious movie series because we have a
Right.
race. So, and then, of course, Curiosity. It's interesting that I saw a lot more connections to the Wizard of Oz.
Mm. Why do you say the Wizard of Oz?
Well, the through being the wizard, but actually, it's a show,
Oh,
it's a fake that the power is behind
right.
instead.
Yeah.
And of course, we have another evil computer, except this one makes sense to a degree. That they
Right.
were trying to make the pilots better, and it just kept on going. So in a way, it kind of compares to like the evil robots in uh, Incredibles, the first Incredibles movie. How they just kept
Mhm.
on making them more powerful until it became so powerful that even overpowered its creator because it had become too adaptable.
Yeah, kind of like the Void, even though they were, a bunch of I don't even want to say androids, a bunch of space killing robots. The one that Balana tried to fix.
Oh yes, from Prototype and Voyager, Android 8472.
Right. Right. It's just like, do I call them an android? Are they worthy of that name?
No, they call themselves androids in the series. So
Okay, they're a race
yeah,
of androids. Okay, yeah, because she does talk about Data. Okay,
yep,
but which was very nice. That was very nice. But yeah, back to this. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I mean, even though it had different names, zero was the correlation between the two,
hmm
and I thought that was very, 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 very nice. And I, it's like as we're a third through this season now, it seems that there's literally a Trek callback in every single episode,
of course.
and more so than the first season. Now, I understand the first season, you got to establish who the characters are.
Well, there were callbacks, but not as many. But
Mhm.
the key and the reasoning being that they're actually in Starfleet now, and they're actually on, a Starfleet ship with a Starfleet crew, and they
Right.
have the ability to find some more of these things.
Right.
Although I do have to note the Infinity looks a lot like the Nebuchadnezzar from the Matrix movies,
Really?
rather than any type of starship we're used to seeing.
I need to see the Nebuchadnezzar again because I just watched Resurrections the other day.
Mm, why?
I
Well, no,
I
it could be worse. It could have been Reloaded.
Reloaded was a filler movie to me.
Hmm.
Just a filler movie. We have filler episodes, then there are filler movies. That Reloaded was definitely a filler movie.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, can we skip over this part? They sleep with each other. What else?
Yeah.
God. No, Resurrections was okay. I liked it.
Okay.
It
I don't
was
remember. It's been so long since I've watched any. And I've watched the first one since, and I watched the. Well, I did watch Resurrections. I did.
I have a
Oh yeah,
question.
Reloaded and Revolutions were awful. But yeah,
Yeah, there's right. Resurrect. Why didn't people like Resurrections? Out then we'll jump right back to Star Trek.
well, no, people didn't like Resurrections because at that point it had been what, oh,
6
18
years.
years, and plus
Well,
it,
18 years since the last. Yeah.
yeah, and it just seemed like they were digging up the IP to try to keep it going after it had a very definitive end. So,
I I think what's interesting about fourth wall and admit that they're trying to dig up the IP,
mhm.
which I
Yeah,
was
that
like,
was neat.
yeah, but
Your microphone's cutting off.
it
That's
is.
me.
No, it's me. It's got to be me. 1 second. Let me get
Yeah,
it. Let me get it
your
together.
video's gotten choppy and your mic is cutting out.
Oh, okay. Mm, let's get it together. Let's
Oh,
do it.
sorry. So, while he's figuring that out, the other tidbit for is there in Beauty No Truth, of course, is a playoff of the season 3 episode of TOS. Is there in Truth No Beauty, which was the episode that introduced the Medusans in the first place. So that was the very first Medusan episode, and then here we have, 50 years later, another episode that plays off the title, in which you have a Medusan transforming into a corporeal body. And that's just an interesting thing. We have seen it referenced in other. Oh, it's just me now. But we've seen it referenced in Star Trek and other sci-fi things about the idea of ascending to a higher consciousness or energy. We saw that in season 1 of Lower Decks, the man who ascended. That's when we first got introduced to the koala. But the idea that you have a race that has become energy essentially and is seeking the return to corporeal. So that's an interesting dichotomy there.
So
And yeah.
Well, I mean, I wanted to, because we are talking about the corporeals need to have humanoid bodies, right?
Well, corporeal means is to have a body.
Oh, non-corporeal. I'm sorry. Non-corporeal beings to have a body. I really haven't seen a lack of acceptance for non-corporeal beings, other than the Calamarain, which was going after Q, but that's a different story.
Well, the thing with the Medusans is the Medusans in their pure energy form drives people insane if they see it. So them not having a body means they need something like the containment suit that Zero uses, like the first one that he built for himself at Tarzamora, and the one Starfleet constructed for him.
That's right.
At the end of season 1,
which
is the one that got destroyed here in this.
Right.
Or as some have put it, the Apple version. It was made in Cupertino.
I guess that makes sense. Like,
what did you think about the fact that they couldn't tell them apart, the beings on Octavia 4?
I mean, they all had like greenish, bluish humanoids.
Well, they basically were all the same to a degree. And at one point, I was looking at using the eyes as a way of choosing, but no, Zero's eyes changed. When they first got to the party, Zero's eyes were dark, and then when they got out to the Alamoth and the run, Zero's eyes were robin's egg blue.
That's a very astute observation, because I promise I did not pick up on that.
I didn't notice until I watched it the second time.
I looked at, what? Now that I think about it, they probably did look the same to me. I differentiated them from. I probably have to watch it again for physical features, but for aesthetic clothing features, some of them had different clothing, different types of jewelry, different headwear. I didn't see any eyewear of type exactly.
And it was nice that Zero came out of the unit fully dressed.
Right. I'm like,
it's
okay,
a kid's show after all.
Yeah. So, and then I was thinking, as they got this body, what is and it's really, I wish Marie was here for this, but it's fine. Because I understand the different sexualities. There's pansexual, there's demisexual, and there's sapiosexual, and then you can go gay, straight, bi, whatever you want to do. Whatever fits the parameters of what you're comfortable with.
Okay, well, that's sexuality. This gender.
Right. We're getting there. So I was thinking, okay, how is Majel attracted to a ball of energy? And then I thought about it. Oh, sapiosexual. They are the most intellectual ones in this entire group.
I see where you're going now. Okay.
You're right. And we got logic over here, and we have like this. It's just like, oh, okay. We got it. Okay, cool. So I was just thinking, how's this body gonna work? How's it? And I was like, wait, William, you're overthinking it. And I was like, oh, sapiosexual. Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so,
I can tell you from my own experience that sometimes you may find interest in someone that you it ain't gonna work. There is just no way it's
Not
gonna
going to
work. And it's not even a case of where it shouldn't work because I'm talking about no, it's just not going to happen. And you like a person anyway, and it's just yeah.
I've been emotionally attracted to cisgendered women,
Mhm.
even though wasn't nothing gonna happen.
Well, just think of the fact like uh, I'm not all right. It could be considered a shameful thing. I'm not going to shame to admit that there are times when there's some things that are attractive of cartoon characters,
Yeah.
or cartoon animations. I mean, it's not they're not real, obviously, but I mean, and I'm not saying like a regular everyday cartoon character is one specifically drawn or image created to be sexualized in a way. Yeah. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that attraction goes beyond the body.
Hmm.
But that's going a little out of left field there. I didn't
I
expect
mean,
that we were going to hit on that here.
Although
It does make
I'm sorry, go ahead.
it does make sense because it is Magel that is realizing that there's something wrong with the group, mainly because Magel is close with Zero to a degree, and
Mm-hmm.
that closeness obviously would not continue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
So
yeah, what was the point in omitting the truth from Zero just to keep them on the planet? Like, what's the goal of this new race? Like,
I'm thinking what would make sense to me is when they were giving the pitch to Zero, if they would have told Zero, and you can never leave, then Zero may not have gone through the process.
of getting a body.
Yes, because Zero would not have been willing to give up their family. But
Right.
and once again, we have no idea the stakes as far as this degeneration, this degradation. How long it's going to take, and how they are going to go through it. And will it be painful? Will it be sudden? Will it be long drawn out? Well, we don't know, and they did not give us any hints of that.
I'm very glad that they did not.
Okay.
Stuff does happen, which I will not say, but I'm very glad that for this episode, they did not give any indication as to what happens to their body, or if anything happens to their body at all.
Right.
Which I appreciated. Like, they didn't necessarily make Zero's new body the focal point of the next 6 episodes. Like, it's
I would hope not.
they didn't. They in the next one they just say, "Oh, you have a body. Nice." And that's it. Then they move on to the next subject. That's it.
Damn you, William, and your spoilers.
That is he has a body.
It is
He has a body now.
Well, who's the one saying that you have a body now? Because we know the crew knows they have a body now. I'm trying my best to make sure that Zero is not male or female.
It's
Yeah.
hard. But yeah, it's I will say in the next episode it's a lot more complicated than that.
Okay, well, we will talk about that next week when we talk about the Devourer of Worlds.
Got it. But now you said something earlier today that they mentioned other non-corporeal beings that we've seen throughout Trek. What were they again?
It was the Paxtons. It was the see, now like I said, I am very upset that the Memory Alpha page is blank. Like, it has 2 quotes from the episode, and it has a reference to the previous episode. In there is there in Truth No Beauty. But other than that, it does not give us any more. It doesn't have the synopsis. It doesn't have the cast list. It's like so much. Let me see. Okay, it is Ovidia 4. Now we found that on the Medusan page in Nuri Alpha. And it's Ion was the name of the leader, of course.
Of course. Sure.
Yeah, so just going to the Medusan page. All right, Ovidia 4. Now I can go to the Ovidia 4, and they have, all right, Medusans, Paxons, and Calamarain.
Calamarain, yep.
Yeah, Calamarain, yes, we have from, that
TNG.
was, yeah, TNG episode where it's Human Q. The Calamarain come after. The Paxons, with the Paxon energy field, a xenophobic, isolationist, non-corporeal species having planet orbiting a T-Tauri-type star in the Nagami Nebula that they came upon in Next Generation, and they did not like Counselor Troy. So that was from, in fact, that was the episode Clues, where another one that included lost time, because they had them going to a planet and then they all collapsed and they woke up and they thought it was only, a few minutes later, but it actually had been days later. And it turned, yeah. And so it ended up being this whole mystery that Picard and Crusher and them figured out, and Data was the one that was hiding everything because he was immune to the energy field that was the Paxons used to protect their planet.
So the Paxons did come out after all, or at least some of them.
Yes.
Because they're very reserved.
Right. So that's the Paxons from episode Clues, and the Calamarain from the episode Deja Q. Intelligent non-corporeal life forms that existed as swirls of ionized gas. Their language cannot be processed by the UET due to a lack of reference. They could generate Berthold rays to scan others and high-energy tachyons for attack. So that's the Calamarain. So if I look on the page for non-corporeal life forms, let's see if there are any others.
Non-corporeal.
Well, we know the first non-corporeal life forms we dealt with were Trelane technically is people. Squire of Gothas is non-corporeal, though he took corporeal form to meet with the crew of the Enterprise. Errand of Mercy was one of the first Klingon episodes with you have the people of Organia have ascended to being energy. And of course, they came back in an episode of Enterprise years later. You had the energy being Redjack that was behind in Wolf of the Fold, that was behind the Jack the Ripper. You had triadic-based energy beings in TNG, the Bonding and Voyager Cathexis.
I was going to say, that was the one where you just describing the one where Chakotay was in the boxing ring and they were stuck in this realm of space, chaotic space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you had DS9 episode Meridian, in which it was a planet that would come back for a few days in corporeal form, but then would turn non-corporeal for a 60-year interval. The DS9 episode Meridian. See, others, the Zetarians, life force of their former corporeal existence, that's the Lights of Zetar. They had taken over, wait, is that the ones I'm thinking of? No, all right, I was thinking of the ones that where they had become energy beings and they took over Kirk, Spock, and Diana Muldaur's character in that episode. So
that's a cool sound effect, by the way.
Yeah, I have frequencies, the communication frequencies open as my text and timer alert. So.
I wonder if I can get my Ring doorbell or a doorbell to make the sound effect for the. I don't know.
I don't know if you can with a Ring.
Probably not.
So, but yeah, so there are other non-corporeal beings, but 2 that we met in Next Generation and 1 from the original series are referenced in this episode. And of course, the original title is from a George Herbert poem. Jordan, why is there in truth no beauty? So this, adapting that.
I actually have another question because this has been on my mind too. I'm actually part of the show. I'm actually asking questions now. Didn't you find it a little bit peculiar to find an abandoned Borg transwarp conduit in the Alpha Quadrant?
No, what I found interesting that it was just sitting out
there.
there. Yeah, because what we've seen of Borg conduits before, like in Voyager, when we saw them, they were on the side of suns and other planets, and like even Picard season 3, it was on the side of Jupiter. Was in the gas on the upper atmosphere of Jupiter was where one let out. But in season 1 of Picard, they entered a Borg transwarp corridor merely using tachyons. That they had to go to a specific place that would take them to it, but it didn't have a gate like that.
Because I remember the first time we see one was when Lord took over, that sect of the collective, or at least he tried to, anyway.
Oh, right.
And Geordi released certain things of a certain bandwidth to trigger a, I guess it was naturally formed because they didn't make it seem like it was built. I don't remember them saying it was built. And then they went through and we see our transwarp corridor or conduit.
Right. In that case, it was kind of more of a wormhole.
It was more of a wormhole
to
activate it. Okay.
Right.
So this one, I'm like, because I couldn't tell if it was just like, was I missing something? Did I miss anything? Because usually we get the entrance end of a transwarp conduit. We see that, and then on the outer end, you see just the other end of the wormhole, essentially.
Right.
But I never saw one or even thought to see one in the Alpha Quadrant, and then it made me wonder. Wait a minute, y'all don't have a spore drive or a transwarp drive. What part of the Alpha Quadrant are you in that there's a Borg transwarp conduit that's abandoned in the Alpha Quadrant?
Yeah, I know that was kind of like a hand wavy thing. That's
like, did the writers just throw that in there?
It seems that they did, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But because especially the fact that you can fall out of the transwarp corridor to this planet, there's obviously going to be a lot of things that on it. It doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. That it's I understand that space is big, but pirates, raiders, Starfleet would have been dismantled it by now.
Right. Well, and just thinking about the fact that if you enter a wormhole, while you're passing through the wormhole, as we saw in Deep Space Nine and other references, if there could be a planet in the wormhole, especially we saw that in the very first episode of Deep Space Nine, the Emissary, where they land on something inside the wormhole. But it's not like you could fall out of the corridor and to a planet. And that's definitely what it looked like happened to the Infinity, that it fell out of the Borg corridor. Which, I mean, if there is that sort of thing where you can fall out of it, then it's almost like the Borg corridor is actually just like a superhighway.
We saw that in Voyager in 2 instances with Timeless, and we saw that in the Vaudouar episode.
That's with the quantum slipstream. Yes. Which is what we saw throughout first season of Prodigy, because that's what the Protostar was had a slipstream drive powered by a Protostar.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very interesting. So what else you got? What else we got these
Well,
last
just saying that there's always little things that if you really stick on them, it kind of it's like why when they were interviewing Gwen was Majel there? That didn't make much sense to me. I mean, just as Maria brought up, why is Rock Talk on the bridge?
on the bridge, right?
Yeah, why was Majel there with the Doctor and Tysus and Janeway? I also noticed that, they've referenced it a couple times. It's now Counselor Noom instead of Doctor Noom.
Oh.
Yeah, he was Doctor Noom and CMO of the Dauntless in season one, but now he's Counselor on the Voyager A, and the Doctor is the CMO
Mm.
on Voyager A. So that's interesting.
That is interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I haven't made it to the particular episode yet, but I have seen a photo of the first Tellarite.
Oh yes.
Basically, a
Journey
pig
Battle.
mask.
Yeah.
And then there are literally different variations in every single Star Trek.
Basically, the budget for a single episode of Discovery is higher than the special effects budget for all 3 seasons of the original series, and that's adjusted for inflation. Obviously, it would.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it would be higher, but no. If you adjusted to 1966 to $2024, yeah, the budget of a single episode of Discovery dwarfs what they could spend in 3 seasons of the original series.
Oh
And so they had to get by with a lot of interesting choices to make different aliens. And that's why the Klingons just basically had interesting facial hair and slightly darker skin and weren't otherwise very alien-like. And then you see when they had a slightly bigger budget, like the Andorians in the original series had a specific look. When they went to TNG and we only saw them 2 or 3 times, the Andorians in TNG, they made them look completely different. They still had the antennae, but otherwise, it just doesn't look the same anywhere close to it. It wasn't until Enterprise where we finally had a regular Andorian characters coming on that they went back to essentially the look of the original series, but updated in a
modern
more
way.
interesting way. Yeah, because the antenna could actually move and.
Yeah. And I think Shran ended up getting one of it cut off or something. Something happened.
Yes.
It was funny. It was so funny.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So news list. We do have another competitor that wants to try to purchase Paramount Global, even though that a deal has already apparently been met and they've already begun making the changes. And as we discussed, the close down of Paramount Television. And so we did an episode of Trek That on Sunday night. I sent it to William. I don't know if you posted it to the Trekkers Delight channel yet.
I was saving it for tomorrow evening, for
Okay.
the release time.
Okay.
Well, tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. But I mea culpa, I made a mistake last week when we talked about Paramount Television and its demise. That is not the end of the lot where they made the original Star Trek and I Love Lucy. It's not even the end of Paramount Television that made original Star Trek. This was Paramount Television that launched in 2014 to create television series based off of the IP in the Paramount movie collection. So it was specifically formed from that. What the Paramount TV that we know of that created Star Trek, well, Desilu that created Star Trek, which was purchased by Paramount, that is now CBS Television Studios. So Star Trek has been under CBS since its return with Discovery, and it's going to continue to be with CBS. And that lot has been used for other things, and there's even, I believe, apartments called the Studios of Parliament at Paramount. All right, other news. Trying to think what else there was. there were a couple announcements. We don't have any big things changing it. We've nothing new for Lower Decks. We still know it's coming October 24th. No, we still don't have a date for when the Section 31 movie is. We just know it's going to be sometime next year.
Mhm.
We had that one clip from season 3 of Strange New Worlds that was shown at Comic-Con. We don't have any more information on that. We don't have a full trailer. We know that they are still, I believe they've wrapped production now, but they're still working on post-production of that. Academy has not started filming yet. We talked last week about the last of the cast, as far as we know, being named. Let me check Trek Movie to see if there's anything else I found. Doug Jones gave an interview in which they asked if he would like to come back as Saru, and of course he said, "I would love to." And perhaps maybe that includes showing up on Strange New Worlds. How that would work in the timeline, he doesn't care. He just would like to come back, which is fantastic. Yes, we would love to see Saru come back.
I love Saru.
Let's see. Strange New Worlds showrunners talk about a crazier season 3 and plans to drive right into TOS. The merger deal date has been extended for Paramount with Skydance in order for them to consider the competing bid. So what was that's Bronfman. Edgar Bronfman Jr., former CEO of Warner Music Group. He's a $6 billion bid. He's an heir to the Seagram's fortune. Let's see. Diversified Seagram Spear companies with series acquisitions, including MCA and Universal Pictures, meaning them stepping down what was then Vivendi Universal in 2001. He secured $5.5 billion from 20 different backers, including former Baby Genius producer Stephen Paul and crypto investor and former child actor Brock Pierce.
Oh.
According to Hollywood Reporter, Paramount's special committee for evaluating deals has extended the go-shop period for the Skydance merger until September 5th, giving them time to evaluate the new offer. The Bronfman deal bid includes $400 million that would be paid to Skydance if Paramount ends up taking the offer. So Skydance was willing to pay $4.75 billion. He's offering $6 billion, and that he'll pay Skydance basically 10% of what they were going to pay to buy Paramount Global. Now, what is and of course, I mentioned this before. You have you had National Amusements, which owns the significant shares of Paramount Global, currently headed by Sherry Redstone. They would sell their shares to the ownership of Skydance and merge the companies together, and that's David Ellison and his father, Larry Ellison, who is the 5th richest person in the world. So there's a possibility that this might become a bidding war if it looks like it could go higher. But yeah, they had a $45-day window where Paramount could consider other offers, which ended today. And so this offer came in at the absolute, and now update: Skydance has threatened to pull out of the deal.
Say no, you're gonna get
Skydance is making it clear that they are not happy Paramount has extended their deal deadline to consider the last-minute bid from the consortium led by Edgar J. Bronfman Jr. They have made their feelings clear in a letter sent by their lawyers to the Paramount board. The Wall Street Journal reports that Skydance is accusing Paramount's board of directors of breaching several terms of their agreement, including the failure to disclose that they were triggering the go-shop provision of the transaction agreement. They said they had a 45-day window for the go-shop, and
I don't get it. Why are they mad when it's just like, well, you should have jumped on it, and if there's a window period, like
yeah, they're saying that Paramount did not let them know that they were going to trigger this provision, allow them. Excuse me, long day. They didn't know that they were going to trigger this provision, allow them to get other offers. And now another offer's come in, and it's more than what Skydance wants to pay, so that's trouble for them. Let's see. And in last bit of news that William, you got to get on this. They are now casting Star Trek Khan SETI Alpha 5.
What?
Star Trek Khan SETI Alpha 5.
I don't know what that is, but I'm writing it down.
It is an audio drama that they announced 2 years ago on Star Trek Day. Nicholas Meyer, who wrote Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, has been trying to get made when they started pitching new Star Trek series, he pitched Star Trek 1992 as a miniseries that would show Khan's life on SETI Alpha 5 with flashbacks to his rise to power and fall from power during the eugenics wars. He pitched it as a series or maybe a movie, and then it's kind of gone back and forth. Then they talked about making it a comic book or a book. Now it's going to be an audio drama, and they just announced that casting is now open for audio performances. So say if somebody has a studio with audio equipment, just saying, William, take your shot, man.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Okay. Yes,
please.
yes. I can literally be in Star Trek from home. Do you know how much that is so golden? I would be screaming. Every episode. Oh my god, I couldn't spoil anything though. I would just have to sit here. Like,
yeah. Well, I don't know if it's an audio drama, so I don't know if that would fall we probably would review it at some point. So
I'm sure. You know what? That is something really interesting to explore. Like how, to me, my wish of being on a Star Trek show is low key already fulfilled with Trekkers Delight. So I'm just counting my blessings, because I love my people.
Mm-hmm.
But hypothetically speaking, just as a final question, unless there's more news, if you have a Star Trek podcast group and one of them gets casted into a Star Trek series or a possible thing, and of course the said person stays in the podcast group, right?
I don't think you would be allowed to.
I was going to say I wouldn't be able to say anything.
No, I think you would not be allowed to be on this podcast anymore.
Ooh, why?
You would have to. You would have you would be under contract, and that contract would include an NDA. And the risk of you disclosing anything about the audio drama would be enough that they would probably tell you, cut it. All right, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
That would happen in real life. Okay. So I previously we've talked about this. I mentioned it previously in the podcast and more so on Trek That because it's on my AS21 channel. I previously had my own media company, AS21 Media. It was a part-time company, entirely run with a group of friends on the internet, and it lasted 5 years. And we just didn't take off. But at our height, we had 11 podcast series going. We had video series. We had 20 books from several different authors. One of my authors was producing a podcast series, and I was promoting that author's book. That author was then brought on to a reality competition show.
Okay.
Under the terms of the contract for the reality competition show, that author can no longer promote their book.
Oh no.
They were still able to do their podcast because it was talking about things outside of it wasn't promoting the book specifically, it was talking about things tangentially. But I had to go and remove references, remove the author's picture from our website. The video interview I had done with that author, I had to edit it to remove their face. So they were. I'm talking to them on camera. And on camera. You're seeing their hands, and their body. You can't see their face. In order to get them within the terms of the contract, and that's with having nothing to do with the person's book, and like for this reality competition program they were on. It was just the terms over promotion and likeness rights and everything. They could not do those. So if you were to join something like that, I guarantee you would be dissuaded from continuing to be on this podcast. And as much as I enjoy your company and being able, you're the one making this podcast happen. I would want to see you succeed far more.
I appreciate that. I mean, I can watch the show,
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And once it's done, once the terms of the contract end, obviously there probably will be things that you wouldn't be able to speak on for some time afterward. But once it's done and released, if you were so fortunate to have a part, then you could come back to us. But I imagine if everything goes well,
just can't say anything.
Because go for it.
Because I will say, during the filming process of Three's a Company, which they changed the name, by the way, it comes out next year. We couldn't say anything.
Right.
We couldn't say a word. We couldn't because privacy stuff. You don't want to compromise the filming schedule. You don't want big crowds coming in to see these celebrities, which they weren't much of celebrities anyway. But still, we were not allowed to talk about where we were filming. It was out who was here. That's what they advertised, just to get us out there. But other than that, no, we couldn't say anything. So you're right. So you said Star Trek Con SETI Alpha 5, and it's a audio book or audio drama?
Are you familiar with Big Finish Audio Productions at all?
No.
Okay. That's they're not the ones. At least I don't think they're the ones.
They're not. Okay.
That's fantastic. Big Finish is a British company who has basically lived and died on Doctor Who. They are what kept Doctor Who alive during what's called the Wilderness Years, after the original Doctor Who was canceled in the late 80s. And they kept it alive until it came back in 2005. They do it they have been doing audio dramas with the various doctors. So it's continuing the storylines of doctors who had been on the show, even going back into the 70s and 80s, late 70s, early 80s, coming back and doing audio dramas, continuing the stories for what you don't see on screen. And that actually was a major thing in keeping Doctor Who alive before it came back in 2005.
Right.
And the Doctor Who was where they did a TV movie, the Doctor that introduced, he actually has so much more. He only has an hour and a half of screen time as the Doctor versus hundreds of hours of audio plays. So yeah, that's what this is. And I don't see anything about the production company. And this was an exclusive shared with TrekMovie.com. So yes, thank you very much to TrekMovie.com for making this information available. I tried to do my own research and finding things for news lists, but it not always have time to do that. And we are well over an hour now, but it was worth it to see the excitement on William's face with the possibility that something could happen here.
Bro, I am research. I wrote this down with a Sharpie. I'm like, where?
All right.
Yes. Okay.
We'll take this positive energy, put it into your attempts to get this, and let's manifest this. Let's make this happen for you. and let's make you a future Trek star. Let's have it be so that you're not future Trek star anymore. You are just a Trek star.
Yeah. Okay. Chill, William. Chill. Okay. Yes. All right. Take us out, Keith. Take us out.
Okay. Thank you all for watching this evening. Please make sure to like and share. Hit the button below to like it. Leave us a comment what you thought about these 2 episodes. Your own thoughts. Have you been watching like we have? Well, like I have, only watching bits and pieces, and your thoughts on the season. Please don't spoil things. Be nice. I've seen other podcasts that have spoiled bits that I am still not happy about Trek culture. But let's keep it civil. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Share this with your friends. If you want to be part of this, reach out. We would love to have you. It shouldn't just be me and William and occasionally Jason and occasionally Marie, occasionally the others popping in. We are open to having more people be part of this conversation. And it works best when it is a conversation between multiple people with multiple backgrounds and multiple feelings. And that would make it more interesting. So, feel free to reach out. We'd love to have you. But for now, for Trekkers Delight, I'm Keith F. Shovlin.
I'm Will Wofford, Trek star.
Live long and prosper, my friends.
Wait, Jason, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you being right now? I gotta know.
I'm serious, dude. You got
like 10 out of 10 serious, or picking on Michael serious? Which one?
There is no temperature in space. It's not cold.
What are you serious?
Okay, wait.
Who is this? Oh dear God! It just got better.
Because you said his name.
Oh! Welcome to the party, Michael.
No, that is not how we're going to end the episode, because Keith actually has like a legitimate news update. He knows shit, and we should possibly like convey that knowledge.
That's my favorite line. He knows shit.
It's just like a black and red mound. It's like,
why are you describing yourself?
What the hell?
Hello from
Hey, Virgil.
Hey,
Virgil.
welcome.
Hello, Virgil. Welcome. Who are you?
Who?